Caucus meeting, Board of Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. The time is now 6:01. Calling the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Ackrey?
Here.
Commissioner Downing?
Here.
Commissioner Smith? Here. Commissioner Tubby?
Here.
Mayor Washington?
Here.
We have our quorum and are duly qualified to conduct business.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time we're opening up the public hearing on the proposed tax rate. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak on the tax rate?
I have no one signed up.
Anyone from the audience wish to come forward on the tax rate? Seeing none, public hearing portion on the proposed tax rate is now closed. Now we're going to have a presentation by KYTC. Would you come to the microphone, Mr. Yeager, please? Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me today. I'm here, I guess, with some interesting news. Forever, the Highway Department has been known as the place to try to get people through the city as quickly as we can. And over the last couple of years now, we've changed our opinion of that. It might have something to do with the Secretary of Transportation being a former mayor. But in any case, we are now looking at what we call complete streets, and that is looking at all users, not just the people who go through the streets. So we know in the past we've sort of treated some of the city streets as boulevards with little respect for people trying to get out and use the streets for something else. So with that, as we look at our resurfacing program, and 11th and 12th Street is due to be resurfaced, we're looking at whether or not we can actually convert that back to the way they originally were designed, and that's to make them two ways. So the proposal, if the city agrees, is for us to make 12th Street two ways and 11th Street however you would like it, but then the state route would just be 12th Street through Covington. That would be in concert with the way it is at the other end, near the interstate end, where it's two ways there. So that would just be continuous then. You'd be able to go from the bridge to the interstate along 12th Street and would not have to go over to 11th Street and then come back. What we also would propose would be to put a stop sign at the end of 12th Street before you approach the bridge. We've had a number of calls and concerns about people speeding through that area, and by putting a stop sign there, we can slow traffic down. Also, we found that traffic is calmer on a two-way street because you're not passing a car in the same direction. So there's some traffic calming involved in that. Again, we're bringing it at this time because we are going to resurface the road, and we would like to work with a new palette, so to speak. So once we resurface the road, we can restripe it accordingly. We would leave the parking as it is today. We would take the two eastbound lanes, make one of those a westbound lane. We would continue to leave the left turn so you could turn back onto Wheeler, and we could make some minor modifications at that point, working with the city. But the idea would be, the concept would be that we are able to make that the two ways, so we can do that. To be full disclosure, that would mean we would request the city take over the responsibility for maintaining 11th Street. I don't know if that's how it is. The good news is we will resurface that before we do it, and we'll stripe it as you like. If you would want to make parking on both sides, those kinds of things, allow more parking and just narrow the streets, or if you'd like that to be two ways as well, that would certainly be your prerogative. I'm sure there are probably some questions.
Any questions from the body? Commissioner Ackrey?
Well, you answered one of my questions about 11th Street. Do you see any other costs the city would take on with this project?
We would also include in this, we would change the signals, the signal heads. So, even though 11th Street would be yours, if we propose that a signal be taken out, for instance, we remove that signal. So we would work out the details to put 11th Street as you would like it, this one time. So yes, you'd be maintaining it from then on. With the resurfacing, you're already maintaining the state routes within the city under agreement. So there wouldn't be much change there. The big change would be, I would think there'd be a lot less traffic on 11th Street and some additional traffic on 12th. But again, I think the calming effect will take people who are using this as a shortcut now will find an alternate way to get through there, especially if we're controlling the speed across the bridge.
And then one more.
Commissioner Ackery, then Commissioner Downey.
Has there been a traffic study done on this?
Yeah, yes, there has.
There has.
Yeah,
Is that?
We wanted to look to make sure that the traffic could be controlled by that. There could be some slight modifications made when we close the 4th Street Bridge, depending on how much traffic we get there. But looking at the situation there, currently the 4th Street Bridge does not carry any truck traffic. And of course, when the 4th Street Bridge reopens, truck traffic will be down there. There'll be even less traffic on the 12th Street corridor, I believe. And most people are using the business corridor, which is the 4th Street corridor, and through Covington and Newport.
Commissioner Downey.
I've got a couple of questions. And if any of these are follow-ups, just say the word. You talked about folks finding an alternate route through. In your experience, when we make these kind of modifications, how many of those residents find that alternate route end up starting to take side streets to kind of navigate through? With the current setup, folks are getting used to a current process that they're going through in order to get from point A to point B. As we make this adjustment, that could clog residential streets.
Most people are going to take the shortest route, and especially those who are not familiar. If they're familiar with the city, certainly, if one street's clogged, we go to the next street, or we go over a street. So we really don't prohibit that. We can't. You can certainly make some adjustments to the city grid if you wish. We would be partners in changing anything on 12th Street, such as the side streets with stop signs and those types of things. But I think what you'll find is that in most cases they're going to frequent 12th Street if they're going 12th Street now, and they'll frequent 12th Street when they were taking 11th Street before, because that'll be the straightest route. Now, obviously, if it backed up on 12th Street, they could go over to 11th if it's two ways, and you could still get some of that traffic there. But again, those patterns are going to blend themselves out over the course of the time that we have it this way.
What's the primary driver behind switching it from the one-way to the two-way in your opinion?
We had a pilot program within our district to look at safe streets for all. Mm-hmm. It's called TSMO. It's a traffic safety and maintenance operations, and basically we were looking at things that we could do that don't cost a lot of money. So we're not rebuilding the road. But we are, and we're looking at it, we're going to look at reviewing every single road every time we resurface it, because that's the best time to make changes in the pavement structure, the lane lines, the parking, the traffic signals. So we'll be improving. Obviously, we'll have to change some of the signals around because there'll be two ways where they're one way now. So we'll make those improvements as well. That's all being done under a resurfacing type contract, which we do about every 10 years. So we want to keep it on a regular cycle, because we realize what's good today is not necessarily going to be what's good in 10 years. So we may have to do it more often than that. But again, if we waited until next year or the year after or the year after, and we resurface the roads this year or early spring next year, then we would either have to resurface the roads, and you've all seen it where we try to take the lines off of the existing road. They always kind of have shadows, and it makes it kind of confusing to have the old lines and the new lines. So the best time to do that is when you put that new surface down and make any changes then.
Sorry. All right. Can you give us perspective in terms of the number of vehicles that travel those streets relative to some of the others in the area?
The 12th Street corridor is not as heavily traveled, obviously, as the 4th and 5th Street corridors through Covington. Madison now is going to switch over when we correct that for Scott and Greenup. We took a detail on that, and of course that Scott and Greenup was initiated by the city, and we financed some of that through some things, but that was a city project. This would be a state project. The numbers are, we have a chart of numbers that says you need one lane at a certain level, you need 2 lanes. And of course, that has to do with peak times as well. There's a lot of times you can go through there that you can see that. The traffic calming, I'm not sure exactly what the ADT is. I can get that for you if you want to.
It would be helpful for us to understand contextually. And then I have one final question. Have you set up any meetings with the residents to get their input?
We met with the East Side Community Group. Was that I guess it was last week.
Last week.
And they seem to be fairly well received. Their concerns were the speeding on the road, that they felt like there was some drag racing, and that they felt like adding the stop sign and calming the traffic there would be a benefit to the neighborhood. There was only a few of them. There's only 1 or 2 that actually lived on 11th or 12th Street, but they were all in the neighborhood and all heard the noise. We did talk a little bit about rumble strips or something like that to sort of calm traffic, some safety bumps. And of course, when we talk about that, you have to be concerned about the noise that they make when a truck crosses them. So we looked at some other traffic control type patterns to try to slow traffic, because that's our idea, is to slow traffic down through the cities. We realize enforcement is nearly impossible to do on a 24/7 basis. So if we can, I don't want to say skinny up the lanes, but if you make it feel a little narrower, traffic seems to go slower on their own.
Mr. Tevin.
Commissioner Acri and I spend a lot of time in the neighborhood group meetings, and speeding is one thing that comes up consistently. Have speed bumps or anything else ever been looked at for some of these? Because we have residents ask us fairly often about those.
Right. I don't mind us looking at those. A few years ago, we said no because they deterred what we were trying to do, and that's to make the most convenient way to get from point A to point B. We're not looking at doing it that way. I would think if in this particular case you want to try some of those things, there's some detriment to that. They're really hard when you're plowing snow, and again, that's on you all. And they can be noisy. So if in fact you want to put speed bumps in on 11th Street, I think I could add that. And you could try it and see what you think. If the residents don't like it, then you can take them out. And if they do like it, maybe we can try it on some other routes.
Okay. Okay, that's enough. So I did pay attention to some of the back and forth on Facebook page from the Link and KY article, and I just want to confirm, so KYTC was instructing residents to come here today to ask questions they may have that weren't aware of the East Side neighborhood or just weren't able to attend.
Okay.
We have planned to have a rather short meeting. Are you going to stick around? Because I know we have at least one here that's going to ask some questions.
Sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And the last question I have, just because we're looking at, safer streets, given we had a resident that was struck and killed back at the end of July on Highway Avenue, we've had a few residents killed on Winston Avenue. My neighbor was struck and hit from a driver failure to yield on Winston and 43rd just a week and a half ago. Is there any conversations around any of these other streets?
We're always looking at those, and obviously fatalities always sort of put up the red flag, and we review those accidents. Of course, they're not always clear. And of course, when there's a fatality, you really can't ask the pedestrian or the driver what they were thinking. I'm guessing that the one on Highway Avenue was a resident in one of those houses, was coming in or out of his car and stepped out into traffic. So it's unfortunate, and we looked at that. We looked at the number of issues of accidents that were there. There were a few side swipes, a couple of mirrors knocked off. So that's a rather tight spot. And I know the state representatives asked me to look into that personally. And some of the things that we could suggest would be to eliminate parking. And of course, that's an idea that, certainly from our standpoint makes it safer because they wouldn't be out there. But it makes it maybe a lot less convenient for those people that have to have that parking to get to their places. So that's a thing, you all sort of control the parking. So I'd be glad to work with you on that if that's an issue. The site distance with abandoned stuff is the road is what the road is. We rebuild it. We have the protected pedestrian spots. The sidewalk on one side, the sidewalk on the other side is actually protected. protected by that wall. So the pedestrian themselves, it's when you step out in traffic, you're doing that, and it's unfortunate. But in this particular, early in the morning, probably dark. I don't think the pavement was wet or anything, so nothing in the pavement other than I know I didn't see it. I didn't see the speed that the lady was traveling, so I'm not sure if speed was an issue or not. But we did look at that, and from the, besides changing the pattern, are trying to move that. There's really no way to widen those lanes or move people over. That's a pretty tight place for parking. It's just barely at the minimum now. So. But we would be glad to work with you on that.
Thank you. And the last question I have, just for future conversations, because we receive a lot of questions regarding state routes or changes proposed by residents, would you be the best point of contact that we should start reaching out to as a commissioner?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
What we'd basically like to do would be to have it come from this commission, from here as a unit. Not that I wouldn't like to get 5 more emails a day.
Right. We prefer to send just one.
But if you all come together and you want us to do a traffic count somewhere, we prefer that come from the city and not just an individual.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Smith.
I just wanted to thank you sincerely for coming up here to answer questions and helping us out. Really, really appreciate it. That's all I have.
I wasn't sitting, so I wasn't in the hot seat.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Can you talk about the plans for the bicycle lane on the 12th Street Bridge?
I can. Yes. One of the, we've been tasked. There's a community group, I guess, an organization who's asked us to look at putting a bike lane on the 12th Street Bridge, and so we looked at a number of things we can do, and of course, anything we want to do safely. If we go with two-way 12th Street, 11th Street in Newport, where it lands is already 2 ways, we will propose that we have a bike lane on each side of the current bridge. That we take and make the bridge 2 lanes of traffic as well. That gives us about 16 feet extra on either side to do a number of different things. We originally looked at putting a cycle track. A cycle track is just bikes on the same side going back and forth against each other like a small roadway for bikes. But we felt it to be more conducive if we could put them on either side of the vehicular traffic. This would allow the sidewalk to remain where it is, have a space between the sidewalk and the bike lane, have a 2-foot buffer between the bike lane and the travel lane for cars, and the center line would stay the same. And we do almost just the opposite on the other side. The other side doesn't have a sidewalk, so there's a little more refuge over there for bicyclists. If you would happen to fall, would not fall over the wall. They would be about 8 to 10 feet away from that wall. So this would allow us to do that. We'd like to do that in concert with the city of Covington and Newport, because if we do that, where do they land, and where would you take those bicyclists when they get there? Again, with both the streets being 2-way, they would be able to share the road and go on 11th or 12th Street in either direction. That they can't do now, because right now 12th Street's 1 way, and you wouldn't want to bring them off the bridge going the wrong way on a 1-way street. So we can do it without changing the street. So don't think that we can't do it. We can still do it without that, but we'd have to turn them down into the streets and take them in a place where you would have to then find a wayfinding place for them to get somewhere else. But we like the idea of being able to do that. I think that DeVuga is still going to be our partner in this. We would like to get this done in concert with, or before even we resurface the roads.
Any more questions for the chief engineer? Mr. Yeager, we appreciate you coming and addressing these questions. We asked the public that if they'd like to, they could reach out to their elected members, city commissioner members. We'll funnel our questions to the city manager, and the city manager can hopefully put one email, and that includes this body. If we think of some questions, we can put them forward to you.
And I can come pretty much anytime. It's on my way home.
Okay.
So, I come through every day.
Okay.
So thank you. And
All
I'll
right.
stick around in case there are personal questions.
Yes, there is a person here, and then I just also would like to remind the public that if you would want to come down next week and speak on this issue, feel free to. We just ask that you sign up by 6 o'clock. That's when we have public comment. Thank you, Mr. Yeager. Okay. Next order of business, anything from the city manager?
Just a couple of items for you all. We had the One NKY grand opening last Friday. We're happy to have our regional growth organizations in Covington and like to welcome them. Also, just an FYI, there are a couple pop-up events for the Brent Spence Bridge project coming up at the library, and the one at the Covington branch is on Thursday, September 25th, and we will get some information out about those. And then lastly, we are going to be hosting a couple of housing-related community forums because we want to hear from our residents and the public about the housing initiative. So those will be on September 29th in City Hall and October 6th at the Latonia American Legion at 6 p.m. And we will use our normal communication channels to get the word out about that. And then, I'm sorry, lastly, WLWT did interview the mayor today and the city on the housing initiative, so you will see something in the media about that. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for the city manager? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next order of business. And that's the police department. Chief Weeholter.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I just have one item. It's a request for an order accepting the retirement of Specialist Mark Richardson effective October 1st, 2025. Specialist Richardson has served with the City of Covington since February 10th of 2002. Prior to joining the Covington Police Department, he worked with the Kenton County Police Department for over 6 years. During his career here with us, he served as an FTO, taser and baton instructor, and a canine handler. He started with the canine program in November of 2005 and just recently ended his tenure in the unit in July of 2025. Over the course of his time in the canine unit, he worked with 3 canine partners, PSD Cody, PSD Cohen, and most recently PSD Zeno. We wish him well in his retirement, and with his retirement, the police department will be staffed at 109 officers of the 114 allotted.
I assume no presentation or no, okay.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for the chief? Without objection, consent. Thank you, Chief. Next order of business, Neighborhood Services Department, Director Brandon Holmes.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, just have one item of consideration. It's a request for an order granting city staff authorization to foreclose on 12 properties in connection with the city's housing initiative.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Holmes? Okay, Mr. Holmes, regarding these properties, it's my understanding that they've been abandoned for quite some time. Is that correct?
Yes, 11 of them have been vacant and abandoned. There's one that's occupied currently. Code enforcement has a long history with that property. We have over $11,000 worth of liens filed, and the owner also owns multiple other properties in town.
Okay. So the one with the code violations, my understanding that he's gone before the code board and
Correct.
he no longer even can go before the board. Is that
We're
correct?
at the point now where he's not even allowed to do an appeal. That's correct.
Okay. Yes. Any questions for Mr. Holmes on the foreclosures of the properties? Without objection, consent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finance Department Director Gaffney. I'll just remind the body that under new business, we'll have a first reading of an ordinance. So Director Gaffney will present on property taxes. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Good evening. Tonight I'm presenting an ordinance establishing the City of Covington's property and personal property tax rates for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. This ordinance sets the real property tax rate at 0.287 per $100 of assessed value and the personal property tax rate at 0.375 per $100 of assessed value. These rates were reviewed during the FY26 budget process and are designed to meet the city's general operating expenses, fund public improvement, and provide a sinking fund for the payment of interest on bonded indebtedness and the redemption of bonds maturing during the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. Taxes will be due on October 31st, 2025, and they will become delinquent on November 1st, 2025, consistent with the City Code of Ordinance. This ordinance ensures we maintain the revenue necessary to continue funding city services and meet our financial obligations. That is it.
I'll entertain a motion to take legislative action. May I have a motion to go into legislative session?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Ackrey. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Tebby. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Regarding the director's report, is there any questions? No questions. So now we'll move to the next order of business. Will the clerk please report? I know I see number 4, but I'm going to skip over that right now and go to the new business number 1. Clerk, please report.
An ordinance relating to the general revenue and levying and fixing and ad valorem tax rate on all property assessed or assessable subject to taxation for municipal purposes in the city of Covington, Kentucky, to meet the general expenses of said city, providing a sinking fund for payment of interest on the bonded indebtedness of the city, and to redeem bonds maturing during the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
This ordinance is considered to have its first reading. If you have any questions for the Board of Commissioners, for our public, I encourage you to reach out to the Board of Commissioners on this ordinance. Thank you, Director Gaffney. Moving back up on the, stand by. It's still like I'm on the radio. Sorry. May I entertain a motion to come out of legislative session and to go into caucus?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Downing.
I'll second.
Second, Vice Mayor Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Under board appointments, you'll see number 4, our esteemed Sharmalee Reddy. I'm going to appoint her without objection to Kenton County TID Board as a voting member. Without any objection, any discussion, we'll put that on consent. Commissioner discussion items. Any commissioner would like to bring anything forward? Commissioner comments. Any commissioner would like to bring any comments forward? Seeing none. Under mayor's announcements, comments, I want to take a moment to update everyone on an important project moving forward in our city. Very soon, Scott and Greenup streets will be converted from the current one-way configuration into two-way streets between 12th and 20th streets. Some of you may have already noticed changes along the corridor, with new signage being installed and adjustments to traffic signals underway. You'll also see message boards and flashing signals going up to remind drivers as the conversion takes place. This change is the result of years of community advocacy. First appeared on the neighborhood wish list in 2016, and in 2018, the city worked with PDS to complete a detailed traffic study that helped shape the plan we're now putting into action. The conversion is designed to calm traffic, make our streets safer and more walkable, and support the continued growth and vitality of our neighborhoods. We'll continue to keep the public updated as the transition takes place. And I want to thank everyone in advance for their patience and support as these improvements are implemented. That concludes my remarks. Can I have a motion for the commission to go into executive session pursuant to 61.810, Section 1, Subsection C, for the purpose of discussing proposed or pending litigation involving the city?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Downing, second by Vice Mayor Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. We'll go into executive session. With that, we'll take a recess. We will not be coming back into regular session. Thank you and have a good night.